Welcome to QwiikPod, the shipping and logistics podcast dedicated to the people inside the industry, the leaders and decision makers who take actions towards change and innovation. Bonjour Jérémy.
Good afternoon, Romain.
First, thank you so much for being here. Really,
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here with you.
Thank you. It's a privilege to have someone like you in our fresh podcast. Just as a start, I wanted to give our audience a little bit of an introduction because not everyone may know you. I can say you're French and Senegalese.
I'm Senegalese and French.
Senegalese and French, which might come as a surprise. And I think it's one of the first surprise of many interesting background. So if I try to recap, you were born in Senegal, actually.
Correct.
You lived in quite a few countries along your youth and your career. But let's say you finished school in Senegal and then you went to study in France mainly?
Yep, correct. I went to Paris and Bordeaux.
Okay, in Kedge. And what I think caught my attention is that you started your career after that. You graduated in corporate finance and you started in banking in Paris.
I started indeed in banking because I graduated from Kedge, so ex-ESC Bordeaux Management, that has been renamed as Kedge. And my master's degree was corporate finance.
Okay.
So naturally, at the end of my business school, I went to banking, which was one of the industry that corporate finance is related to.
Yeah.
And I spent 1 year at CIB, which is Crédit Agricole Corporate Investment Banking. I was working for institutions and insurance desk, mainly doing, let's say, cash pooling, cash financing for these institutional and insurance companies. And after 1 year, I found myself still in banking, getting quite well paid, but in Paris at La Défense. Which from someone who grew up in Senegal was quite strange and quite a different environment. But no, what I was missing is, as you mentioned, I was born in Senegal and I'm from entrepreneur family. So we are 4th generation in Senegal.
I see.
And in banking, I would not say that entrepreneurship, or at least where I was working from, the entrepreneurship was one of the key value and was driving most of my activities. It was kind of recurrent activities, placing order, to ensure that they have sufficient liquidity pool for these big guys, institutions and insurance. So I would say it's interesting first working experience, but definitely not what I was looking for as a working career or working path. Okay. So then what happened, as some people might know, there is a French program called VIE that is sponsored by the French government that allow young people, not only French, actually it's French and EU citizen, aged from 18 to 28, if I'm not mistaken, that they can apply for position in French companies overseas, and it's partially subsidized by the French government, with the aim of helping French company to conquer new markets overseas. So I went to this job fair, specialized in VIE, and I had two opportunities. One was with Orange Telecom, in Mali, for a position in finance in Mali, and the second one was CMA-CGM for a position in Douala. I believe
still in finance.
Both of them were in finance, as I was a fresh graduate of 1 year experience, so there was a bit of continuity. But I believe what, beside my master's degree, what was appealing for this company is that, as I mentioned, I spent most of my life in Africa. So having someone who studied in Europe and so maybe has the management style closer to the DNA of this company, let's say Orange or CMA-CGM, but as well having some grad experience in Africa was, among other, I believe, what makes them say, oh, this young fresh graduate could be an asset for us.
Okay.
And then why, between these two offers, why I choose CMA-CGM, I believe I didn't know much about shipping, to be honest, at the time, but if I had to compare Mali, which is a landlocked country, way less developed, even, I mean, the situation is better than it is now. For sure, it was not the situation, not the same situation, safer than it is now, but Yeah, Cameroon was something different because I was from Western Africa and it was Central Africa. And I said, let's go for shipping without knowing what will be the next, that it will be the next 15 years until now, my career.
Okay.
But this is how I ended up working in shipping. So in Douala, working for CMA-CGM as a financial coordinator.
So thank you so much for sharing this background, because I've been speaking personally to so many people in shipping, and basically that's a very regular answer that I hear is it's kind of a mix of life situation that made me ended up in this industry out of nowhere. Some people, I'm sure, do some specific logistic or supply chain studies that lead them to a career, but a lot of us come from banking, finance, commerce, any kind of more general studies.
True.
But what's really always very interesting is people stay. And you just mentioned you've been in this industry for 15 years. So for you, what was the driver that kept you going so long in this industry?
That's a good point. So I think the main opportunity for me was to start in a small, medium-sized agency. So as we call, I mean, the subsidiary, the branch for shipping agent are usually called agencies. So when I started in Cameroon, when you are in a small, middle-sized company branch, you have easy, if you are curious enough, if you really want to discover, you have this opportunity. It's less structured than if you start, if I can explain better, it's less structured than if you start in a maybe mature country, regional office or head office.
Exactly.
So this is what makes me really like shipping. I was able, thanks to the managing director at that time as well, because I believe who is your managing director or who is your direct report is important as well. But being in this medium-sized environment where if you're curious enough, your direct report let you go beyond the numbers, because I was a financial coordinator. So let's say Cameroon was exporting a lot of cocoa. We're doing lining into the container. So he said that, Jeremy, beside the lining, so which is the corrugated paper and whatever material we put into the container to keep the cocoa at the same humidity level, he said, okay, go on site, see what's happening. We were having a lot of damage with the containers coming from logs, because at the time we could still export logs from Cameroon, where now they have banned the export of logs. But all these opportunities make you feel that, oh, way beyond the numbers. I mean, trade is moving. Most of the economy is moving through trade. And then you relate with different companies. There were as well chemical, I remember, of this Aluminium Cameroon. So many different type of industry that you are discussing with. And again, I believe for me, the main chance was that I started in a small to medium branch with a direct report. So my ex-managing director, my first managing director, that was very supportive, pushing me to go on the field and to go beyond the number. And this is where I started to really love shipping, because it was not only doing my Excel, which I did a lot, for sure. I mean, we were doing consolidation and all financial stuff, but going on the field, what's the reality behind the numbers, then discussing with the commercial how we can improve the profitability while keeping your customers, because as we know, usually finance and commercial does not go along most of the time, because defending different interests. One is P&L and the other one will be the volume. Especially in shipping, where we are in commercial, it's mainly driven by queues, and we have less visibility on the profitability. But anyway, this is what makes me, I believe, first the one who's talking to you today, having this position as a managing director in Indonesia, which is one of the largest shipping country. And because I started in Africa, and be it in Africa or maybe other Southeast Asia country, when you start in smaller countries, and if you are curious, if you have the audacity to go, if you have the right support, then you can go very, very fast. Whereas, to be honest, when I started, I was looking for, so VIE, this program I mentioned, I was looking for Hong Kong, New York, like more fancy places. And it did not end up that way, but for nothing else, I would change it. Now, it's easy to say now, 15 years after, but I'm so grateful for having started at CMA-CGM as a financial coordinator and with the managing director that I had at this time.
I can relate to what you just said, because I started with CMA in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And
so maybe I envy you at that time.
But pretty quickly, what I was missing was that real life experience because you look at your screen, you look at numbers, KPIs. It's very interesting. A lot of geopolitics. I share a lot of what you just said, but what you're missing is the human contact, the customers, the truth, seeing the port, the cargo moving, and understanding who are those people, men and women behind, who are making the world move as it is today. So I really relate, and most of us from like regional positions, the only thing we wanted is to go to a country where we could have a chance. So very interesting.
It's different. I would not say one is better than another, but
No, but it's good to do both. I think somewhere in your career. Great. And so that leads us to you, let's say, joining the industry and then quickly joining what we know today as the largest shipping line, MSC, with whom you stayed for 10 years.
Correct.
In various countries, if my notes are right, in Gabon, in West Africa, in Malaysia, and in Indonesia.
True. So I've been working for MSC for 10 years. Yeah, it was.
Now, today you do not work with MSC, you work with another shipping line, Sea Lead. And if that leads to probably my first question, which is for the ones who know the industry, Sea Lead is what we can call an underdog, a much smaller carrier with high ambition, if I understand well, and very fast growing. But what led you to make that decision after a long period of time with such an important key player in the market and take that leap of faith and join a smaller player?
That's a good question that I asked myself for long hours before taking this decision, because it was not when you work for any company, be it MSC or any other company for 10 years or more, it's never easy to take the decision to leave the company, or at least for me, it was not easy. But when I've been approached by Sea Lead, which was established in 2017, actually, when they pitched me the idea to join Sea Lead, they were the fastest growing shipping line in 2024. So a year before I joined Sea Lead. And there was this idea that, you know, when I joined MSC is a fantastic company and has been growing so fast. And most of my senior people always were always remembering about that time when they started 20, 30 years ago at MSC, when they were taking so many decisions and growing, having a new service and then pulling out the vessel and putting here because this route was maybe more profitable. I mean, totally different than the way we do shipping today in a large carrier size, which is totally normal. And I had this entrepreneurship in MSC, but not as much as what I heard from my senior management in MSC, or even from the Aponte family when they explain you how the trade and the shipping are related. And when I have this opportunity to join Sea Lead, this is the feeling I had when they explained where they were coming from and where they wanted to go and grow into the shipping. So, as I said, it might not be easy, for sure it will not be easy. Leaving such a big, the largest, as you mentioned, I became the largest right after COVID, the largest shipping line, container shipping line in the world, to an underdog. But as well, that what makes the challenge exciting. And as I mentioned, I'm coming from an entrepreneur family. Even though, never say never, but I did not take over from the family business, so the family business is still there. But I always have this fiber of going for entrepreneurship. And this was an opportunity. So this was first. And second, I say, my thought was that, okay, you from MSC is the largest shipping line, so customers come to you. Even though I'm sure I've been doing great things for MSC, and I believe my career path can show. But I say, okay, if I go outside MSC, if I don't carry the name of MSC, will the people call you? Will the people welcome you the same way? Even though, Sea Lead is still a reasonable sized shipping line, but definitely underdog, quite new in the market, even in Indonesia. So I wanted to challenge myself to say, can I do something definitely not as great as MSC has been doing, because the gap is too huge, but can I prove myself that I'm not only carrying the name of a company, but I can develop something for myself. Not for myself, but because I'm not the person looking at my esteem or my ego, but to develop something from scratch, not getting the support of the carrier name I'm working for.
So I'm just starting to, a question comes to my mind. I just asked you just before we started to record this podcast, and realized that we were born about 1 week apart from each other on the same year. And that's, of course, something we all face, but it's maybe something also with our age. Do you think it's the 40-year-old crisis that came to question a little bit, like, are we getting too comfortable and do we need to challenge ourselves more than we used to do in the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, even though maybe it's not 100% your meaning, I would not say comfortable because for both the ex-company we've been working for, definitely, I mean, the position we were holding and as well the size of the company, I would not say it was comfortable, but yes, I was missing part of this entrepreneurial DNA that maybe I had even at the beginning of my career at MSC, having smaller agency, being hands-on everywhere. And it's not I don't want to make a statement that I like to control everything, but when you're the MD for MSC Indonesia, there is you get far from the ground reality. Even though I was meeting customers, I was meeting governments, I was meeting terminals, but there is a feeling that maybe you're missing something. And I can tell since I joined CLead, not saying it's better, it's totally different, but definitely I'm back to reality, more commercial reality, and it brings me back to what made me love shipping, I would say, is because you talk to every type of industry. So you have so many so many problems that you need to find a solution for, because it can be the plywood, it can be in Indonesia, it can be so many things that maybe along the years, having this kind of same position, but in a bigger organization, I was a bit far from, and I miss it.
So maybe if I try to come back to something you said, if I can try to summarize, it's almost this sense of making an impact, having the right capacities to make a change. And today, what do you think is the biggest challenge for a large company to empower their people to actually make an impact? Because to be honest, I fully agree with you. And I've been with CMA for many years. You've been with MSC. We've all know friends who are in any of those leading companies. There are a lot of smart people out there. A lot of them want to make an impact, but it is very difficult for them to do so. Why do you think is the main reason for an individual to be kind of in a certain frame that's hard to break?
First, I believe for large companies, there is this tendency to go top-down approach, even though there will be teams that will be dedicated to change management in addition to the innovation that they will bring, be it a platform, a solution. So there will be two teams, one that is developing, getting the feedback, but there is still a top-down approach, which I believe at some point will leave the people from the agency, from the ground, with a feeling that they are a bit they are not involved in that matters into the innovation. So I believe this could help to have bottom up instead of only top down. And how bottom up? Because it's very easy to say. I mean, it's quite a generic term. I would say that if we leave some local innovation, local solutions that are developed that could be scaled at a regional level and at a global, instead of having a global solution that will develop regionally and locally, this could help as well to maintain a sense of innovation and ownership on the innovation at the local scale, at the agency, at the subsidiary, at the branch level. Whereas today, there will be, and again, I'm not saying that it's that wrong, because there is at some point a necessity to have a top-down, but I would say to complement the top-down by a bottom-up, and to have like small groups in agencies, and maybe, let's say, have a competition or who's the best. There is still some kind of initiative, but I believe less and less, where it's mostly driven by HQ. And I believe this is where innovation sometimes miss to answer, as we used to say, the why. I mean, why are we doing that, and does it fit the purpose of the user? Because if it's not done by the user, then there might be a gap between what HQ. And it can be both frustrating for both sides, because you have your colleagues from HQ, from regional coming, and they want to help, they want to support. And sometimes they will face reluctancy, or people just doing because they have to do because it's from HQ, and not real support. And then both sides get frustrated. So this is what we face in many, but I would not pretend I have the solution. But again, to my opinion, I think to keep part of the innovation for smaller projects, but that have an impact, not just to say we make a challenge or for the sake of making a challenge and to make the people happy, that have an impact and that we can scale. I believe it's still working in many companies, and this is the way where you can bring innovation that really impacts the company and ultimately the industry. So all stakeholders, because at the end of the day, we are looking at all stakeholders. So
No, but thank you for this answer, because we'll come back to it. But I think where I really agree with you is one of the biggest part of innovation is not just what technology exists, what is the structure of the company. It's a lot about the people. Who has this mindset to say, whatever technology you take, being AI today, which is in everyone's mind, but being any kind of technology, what does it mean for me as a business? What can I do? How can I use it? What does it mean for my daily life? And if we wait, I think, for technology specialists to bring forward something to shipping, it will always be difficult or far behind, because, well, people need to understand shipping first to understand what they need. And shipping is such a vast concept. What do you need in Ghana, in Gabon, in Mexico, or in Jakarta might be very different. And what do you need as an agency facing customer, or as a CIO sitting in the regional office or the head office looking at some very complex architecture and database challenges, also very different.
It is.
So yeah, I think it's a lot about people and company culture to enable people to have a voice, to make a statement, and then to be trusted and to be followed, which sometimes involves money, involves time, involves prioritization. There's a lot behind, but I think that's why one of the purposes is to try to go a bit more into detail and understand what can we do as individuals in that complex industry to make a change. How would you describe, with your own words, your role as a managing director of a country?
Okay, so as I mentioned, today I'm the managing director for Sili Indonesia. So it encompasses many aspects of the shipping, but I would say the first one is the people management. And I believe it's for all industries, not specific to shipping. At the end of the day, we manage people. So to ensure that your operations, your marketing, your finance, your logistics, I mean, all the aspects of a shipping agency are working well. First, you need to understand that if your people are getting well, if your people understand the job, if your people are as well in a position to innovate or to propose. Maybe innovation is a big word at the scale of a local agency, but it's to create the environment for them to dare to say, oh, this is wrong, why don't we do different? Or why don't we do this? I mean, for me, and I learned it not at the beginning, honestly, it was very difficult for me at the beginning. I was more because I've been occupying managing director roles quite early in my career, and I've been doing so many mistakes to dictate, because I believe I was getting faster than others. Be it right or wrong, at least it was my thought, it was my conviction. And now I've been evolving in a more inclusive management. It does not mean that at the end of the day I'm the managing director, so I will take the last decision, because it's my responsibility, and I cannot expose all my sub-manager to take certain responsibility. But I'm trying to be as much as it can be inclusive and listening. I'm still working on that. Sometimes I have this, it's not easy to listen, but when you listen and you create this environment for people to dare to disagree, to propose, then I believe you have the chemistry that can happen, and then be it your operation, finance, marketing, commercial, then you can go very far. You can achieve new heights, you can go wherever you want to bring your team. But so I would say, yeah, it's people management. And people management as well, why? Because as you mentioned, shipping is or was, depends on where do we stand on the innovation front, but a dinosaur industry. And it's still a lot of, even today when I said I'm doing more commercial visits, and for sure there will be the innovation, the price and so on, but the relationship matters. So this is very important, I believe, the people management, internal and external stakeholders, having the right words, listening, and this can unlock many things in all aspects, commercial or internal.
I'm glad you just mentioned this, back to this dinosaur idea. I think shipping is often seen as a very slow-moving elephant, and that might be due to a lot of specific reasons or complexity. But do you think there is really something unique to shipping that makes it so hard to adopt innovation as much as e-commerce or banking or some other industries can be a bit more leading today?
Well, first, if you talk about banking and e-commerce, I would say that B2C and B2B are two different words. So maybe it's easier to innovate with customers. I mean, to get through innovation with a customer B2C platform than B2B. Then in shipping, I would say that I don't have exactly the reason because there have been some initiative when I was working on this podcast, I was thinking about what has been standardized because the main thing is standardization. What does not make innovation going through shipping or penetrating the shipping world is that each and every deal stakeholder have their own platform, their own format. But then I say what's today has been globalized. So we have the UN EDIFACT for the EDI, that it's not a new. So it's all the message that the vessel will send to the terminal for discharge loading. I mean, all this, even for the custom with the COSCAR file. So we had this, so led by the UN organization. But beside this, to my knowledge, there is not much standardization. Lately, they have this creation of the DCSA, the Digital Container Shipping Association, which was led by a few larger carriers in the world. And I believe same like we have in the aviation with the IATA organization that has standardized all the codes to enable shipping to innovate, to go for more digitalization. I think beside the statement that, okay, it's B2B and it's maybe the change management is more complex than B2C, because the result it's less tangible than B2C. B2C is immediate. There is a need for standardization. Standardization will lead to efficiency, interoperability. If you look at today's carriers, we all have our own platform. There are few cross-carrier platforms that have not been successful because they have not been able to add more functionality. I will not name, but there were a few that were predominant and now they are less, very less. And yes, I believe standardization is the main issue. And standardization at the scale of B2B is more difficult to make it accepted because it comes to data sensitivity. Sorry. And why should I share my data? Yeah. And this is something that I believe in B2B we have not, or in B2B specific to shipping industry, we have yet to understand. Because if you look at most of e-commerce platform and so on, actually, the more you put together in the same platform, the bigger becomes the market as well, because you remove friction, you remove barriers, you remove many things. But in shipping, I believe we still have this feeling that, oh, if I open my data or if I make it accessible, maybe they will have access, so it's commercial information and so on and so forth. And then we keep friction into the market, which ultimately, I mean, it becomes a trade barrier. Let's say I'm a shipper, I need to go to website A, B, C, and D. It might be a barrier for me to improve my supply chain or to ship more. So
true. So a lack of, let's say, international standards. True.
Yeah. Beside UN,
because one of the key questions is what body would be with the right level of power to impose any kind of decisions. Very difficult question.
They are supranational, like IMO.
Exactly. There are a lot of initiatives. Then who gives them the level of authority and how are they being implemented and how fast? Very, very relevant point. And then I think you're very right on this one. Also, there is still a bit of this sacred shadow that you want to keep on your business, which tend to say, I think if I can just take the next logic with that statement is, we can see today most of the shipping lines are doing innovation in-house. They have their own team looking at their own data, and that of course has proven some success recently, but that's always more of a self-centered innovation, which tends to be more limited. And opening certain companies to outside help or ideas is not very common, and that's probably something that you're
there are more and more initiatives, to be honest. I mean, there are more external initiatives, but for them, I mean, Qwiik could be one of them for sure. And there are others, but I believe, and I can return you the question, I believe it's very difficult when you approach shipping line to make them understand that it's for the benefit of the ultimate stakeholder, who's the customer. So we are not, I mean, these initiatives are here to support the global trade and not specially to move one market share from one carrier to another. And but I mean, I'm part of the shipping, and I do have the same mindset. Sometimes when I'm approached by you or some other digital platform or solution, because it's really something that is important to me, but I always have this psychological reflex: say, "Wow, you want to touch my company's data?
I need to be careful.
Hands off. You need to be careful."
Which is fine. I think as long as it's a challenge that the industry works towards bringing the right level of safety, protection, data control over not being a competing league or anything. It's just also the job of the tech players to bring that level of trust in order to be able to serve the industry well. And on a more personal note, did you use the new year, that new 2026 coming our way, as a moment to reflect and say, okay, what's going to be my plan personally or for my company? But what do I want to do this year in terms of innovation or to make a change, to make an impact?
So first, to answer your question, since I believe 5 years now, every beginning of the year, I open a book and I take note my personal goals and my professional goals.
Nice.
But I should follow them every month, but to be honest, I'm not that consistent on, but at least at the beginning of the year, I write down a few of them and I tend to eliminate because there are way more than I can achieve. And then this can be as well the trap, listing your goals, because there are so many things you want to do. So this is what I'm doing. Going back, not only on the personal, but as well, so personal can be, I don't know, doing more sports, spending more time with the family, learning a new language. I don't have specific one. I mean, for this year, for sure, was improve Bahasa, maybe spending more time with the family, among others. Playing golf, as we discussed about golf,
yes,
as it's very important. I mean, so-called important in the industry. But going on the professional as well, yes, I'm trying to break down my goals between professional, personal. So how I want to be seen as a leader, and because we all have our weakness, and we know that sometimes when we are tired and so on, I mean, our weakness on the professional personal goal is working on how you want to be seen as a leader. Be sure that you manage to balance between your weakness and strengths, that you control your weakness, and as well. So talking about then there is the project. So not only as soft skills, then there is not the hard skill, but the projects. And indeed, for this year, I have some projects. One which is global one, because Qwiik just launched its new customer portal platform. With today we have the basic features that every shipping line's online platform offers, such as booking submission, SI submission, access to your rate, as well as BL drafting. Okay, so this is the basic. So now that we have launched, is to make it a success. So it goes by talking to the customer, receiving the feedback, sharing the feedback with the HQ team. So this is one project that is very important for Qwiik, and so for Qwiik Indonesia, that we want to make a success. And then locally, I have a few. One is potentially with Qwiik, as we are working together to contemplate the implementation of Qwiik as a import delivery order platform and payment-related issues, to tackle payment-related issues. So this is one, for sure. I hope that we will be able to go through, because I see the benefit for our customers.
Everyone is watching.
And another one that I'm looking at, which is more on the... so I've been in touch with an ex-MSC employee based in Rotterdam, who has been working on customs data, and how customs data could be, because the same as we discussed earlier for shipping line, usually shipping line will keep their information, be the CTS and so on, and will not share, or share very few. And the idea from this platform called Cortize is how shipping line can be in relation with forwarder. So let's say there is a lot of FOB business here. I don't know my agent in Mexico, or maybe my agent in Mexico don't know this forwarder that are controlling the business. So it's how to link, not just provide the data, is how to provide functionalities. So having this one is more on the commercial side, but so having more business and make business more efficiently. So more business would be potentially with this partnership that I'm looking at with Cortize, and more efficiently is with platform like Qwiik, to ensure that the customer experience level remains high. Because I believe, I've noticed the last 5 years or post-COVID, we have moved from a very transactional industry, and it's still transactional. Sometimes for $5, some customer will fight, but there are more and more customers that are asking for digitalization, which means transparency, efficiency, 24/7 accessibility, flexibility. And reflecting on where I'm coming from, when I started my career 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I started shipping at CMSC Gem in Cameroon, no one was asking about, very few were asking about the question. It was at the very beginning. Then when I moved to MSC, and MSC was not at the forefront of the digitalization, so many times we had customers asking, "Oh, can you do this?" and taking comparison with some shipping line that were more advanced. And now joining Seeded, and we did not have until January, as we just launched our new platform. I can tell that now I believe this digitalization or digital solution makes a difference on how you can retain, how you can create stickiness with your customers, and to get away from the transactional business.
Very interesting. And I think you're very right, because we have to also look at the fact that we're going to deal with a generation like you and me and our children even more, that is born with a cell phone in their hand, where they can order their cab and order food and do everything very simply. And that very transactional idea of going to a counter, getting a stamp on a piece of paper, which has been in the industry for so long, is changing really fast. You're right. Okay, so one thing I will keep from what you just mentioned is, on a personal note, you also want to make sure you have a good work-life balance, which I think is very important, and probably, again, mainly for our generation. I heard so many people when I joined shipping who were telling me, you have to work hard in this business, which is true. Ships never stop. And if you work hard, you will succeed. And I could see them, mostly men, slightly overweight, losing a bit their hair, working very hard and having senior job. To be frank, they were sometimes very good mentors, very, very good professional people, but not exactly the kind of people you look as a model of what you want to become when you grow up. And I think our generation is trying to be a bit more finding what's the purpose of life, maybe not all philosophical question, but you see what I mean? And finding some time for the children, finding some time for your health, finding what matters for you and prioritizing this. And I think this also leads to having the brain in a capacity to think and to sometimes question things. And back to everything you just mentioned, having the time to plan, look at innovation. So all of this seems to add up, and I think that's why this wave, this generation is also making this industry change.
And I would say, to complement what you say, this is where innovation help as well, is to eliminate, maybe not at the manager level, but to eliminate all these tasks, to allow your employees as well to have the work-life balance and really spend the time on what matters for the customer.
Very
problem solving and not data input.
Provide actual customer care, which
was indeed what we call customer service in shipping for many years. Used to be, and it's not bad. This was the reality of our industry, so we don't need to be ashamed of that. But it was only releasing a piece of paper where the number of containers were stated, the depot, and so on and so forth, and so many data. Whereas today, I believe we are going beyond that kind of customer engagement, and they are looking at maybe more solution or alternative. Let's say the vessel is delayed, to have proactive solution. And so this is maybe how innovation can help, as you said, the work-life balance in a very demanding industry, where factories are sometimes working 24/7. The ships are sailing and berthing on weekends, on public holiday. The terminals never stop, actually. So this is something that we need to take into account.
And I think you're right. And we often talk about it in Qwiik, but I don't think it's fair to think, because that's the reality of the industry, we need to ask our people to do the same. Which is too often, the answer. You need to work late, you need to work during the weekend, you need to answer the phone, you cannot miss an opportunity to do business. But people need to also be good at what they do, and they need some time to rest and to think properly. So having the right level of automation, service level through some sort of digitization is good for people and good for the business in general. Okay. Now, if we look at all those changes and this innovation and technology coming out, mainly again recently with that impressive boom of AI and everyone talking about ChatGPT and Grok, etc. For you, where do you see the biggest impact for shipping specifically? Where do you see that in the next 2 or 3 years there could be a massive change in the way we do business?
To my opinion, again, I'm not an expert of all these topics, but I'm very interested in all these topics, so I'm reading. I would say where we could expect AI, machine learning to improve a lot, the shipping should be in the fleet management, in all the way we consume, optimize the routes based on many events or data that maybe to be run by a human being takes longer than if it's live and done by AI. I believe a lot in this impact of AI, as well maybe on how you read the data, your commercial data, to define trends. I mean, there's so many applications. Again, I'm not an expert, but for me, if you ask me, Jeremy, where you see where AI could improve first the shipping industry should be on the sustainability part by improving the way we optimize the routes, the way we optimize the berthing time at the ports, because so many data, so many events need to be analyzed to take the right decision. Even though I'm sure we have experts that are working on the fleet center management, that know the job by heart, that know this terminal as this tide restriction, this draft restriction, and so on and so forth. But AI could help to really gather all and not seeing as a silo, because then you can work on the whole route. But again, this is my understanding. I never work in this kind of department, but I see this is where the AI could have impact. Then on the customer engagement, on the commercial data analytic and how to propose leads and so on, there is. But for me, the main impact would be on the
makes sense.
management.
And where I really agree with you is I'm one of the people who fundamentally believe that you will never remove human from the equation in shipping, in transport and logistics. It is a human business. People want to talk to a human. You need to have a certain understanding of the industry. I'm speaking today in 2026. Maybe the technology will go way beyond our wildest expectation and we'll be able to think and be smarter than us. Could be. But I think we need the humans, but it's just about bringing the right tools to the humans to be able to do their job and not do those painful, repetitive tasks over and over without much added value, but be able to bring their actual impact to the industry. So I agree. It makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to take a few minutes now to go into finance, because you're a CFO, so I was trying to find a few. You have this CFO background, so I want to go a bit more into what you think about this.
Let's go in finance.
And you tell me if it makes sense. Okay, so thank you. And Jeremy, for you, as a finance background, if we try to narrow it down to one of the biggest aspects of shipping, which no one ever really talks about, it's about payment. It's still a business. People need to get paid and get a service in return. And we have seen very little change or innovation in payment specifically over the last 40 years, basically. We went from cash to checks to today wire transfer, vastly used, being locally or internationally. But that's it. And it still takes some time. And I mean, maybe without going into too much detail, what do you think today about payment? Is that more of a pain point or more of a nice thing to have?
Today it's a pain point, so definitely, I mean, since I started my career, indeed in Africa, we had still a lot of cash payments, and but I believe in many places, maybe even in Indonesia 10 years ago, there was still a lot of cash payments. Now it's less, if not none, because for compliance reasons, many shipping lines forbid cash payment. But it's still, I believe the problem was not, I mean, the cash payment was more on the safety first for the staff, because you have too much cash at the counter, there can be some risk from thieves that come and try to take the cash, fraud as well, and so on. But from a security problem, we move into an efficiency problem, because as well, when we receive all this wire, sometimes you will have bulk payments, which means that for one payment of X million rupiah, let's say we are in Indonesia, it corresponds to 10 invoices. And sometimes the customer, because they forget or they don't want, or whatever the reason, they don't attach the Excel file. And even though they attach the Excel file, then you have an account receivable clerk that will tally or reconciliate the amount, I mean, all what we know. And in the meantime, maybe the payment is made late. So then the customer is asking, oh, I need my DO or I need my BL for LC reason, for whatever reason that the supply chain imposed this customer to get these documents. And yes, this is, I believe there is still a lot of friction in the payment solution, not solution in the payment process, because there is not many solutions today in the market. And this is where I find very interesting to work on payment solution, because it could really benefit to all stakeholders, the customer as well as the staff from the shipping line, having not this manual, we talk about manual input. Clearly receiving a bulk payment and tally this payment with X number of invoices, I don't see the value from a human being doing that. Whereas this human being AR could optimize the cash flow, could optimize many things, but not working on tallying payment with invoices. So, and it solved as well a problem for a customer to get their DO, their delivery order for an import, or their BL release faster. So it really is something that the why of this solution, it's really broad because it's a why that solves the issue on both sides.
And do you think the lack of innovation in that particular field is because of the bank not doing enough, proposing enough solutions, or the shipping industry not being able to, let's say, adapt and receive and welcome those solutions when they come up? Because, to be frank, of course, I have my own opinion, and just to name a few, in the last few years, we've seen e-wallets, QR code. I mean, Indonesia is a great example. Everyone uses QRIS and their phone for everything. So why do we see such a gap between what the finance industry is capable to produce and what the shipping industry is capable to adopt?
It's a good question. So I believe here we have two dinosaurs, the bank and the shipping industry. And while the bank lately, and this is why we're having this discussion and Qwiik is here to offer such a solution, while the bank have been opening up and disrupt by this payment gateway, this e-platform, this online banking in the shipping industry, we are slowly and surely going through digitalization, innovation, disruption, but not as at the level and the scale of the bank today. So I believe, yes, bank has changed. They have been challenged. Regulation have been imposed to allow this monopoly to be broken. Because sometimes the bank, they were not sharing this big cake, which was the transaction, which they get a fee for each and every transaction. And I believe with a certain pressure from from the regulator, they have to open up. And then some startup develop their e-payment solution. And then, as usual, then the dinosaur start to follow or acquire this solution, and then we get a certain level of acceptance by this dinosaur industry that used not to accept e-payment or digital payment solution.
So if I can ask you maybe to make it very simple for the people who are listening to us today, what would a perfect payment, a modern payment look like for you? What would make it easier for you and your team?
From the carrier side, the shipping line side, the shipping agent side, it would be to receive one input of data with this BL has been paid, and the clearing of the invoices with the payment is done automatically into the system to allow the counter to directly release the information to the terminal, the depot, or the counter to print the BL, or the customer to enable the customer to print the BL. But we miss today, even though we had some people to improve, we all measure the turnaround time for each and every transaction to improve our NPS when we will do customer survey. But again, as you mentioned earlier, it's a lot of work, manual input, whereas it could be automated. And I believe this is where innovation makes sense and really answer, again, I'm repeating this, but the why. And the why is the problem of all this personnel, the AR clerk and the customer who wants to get the BL. So when you got this double validation and bring value to both sides, I believe this is perfect. So to have one platform that allow the customer to easily select their invoices they want to pay, as well enabling the payment by copy-pasting a code or whatever that will allow to flow into the shipping line bank, then into the finance system bank, and to clear all this invoice that ultimately will enable live clearance of the document or printing of the document. That would be the perfect solution. Great. And again, it benefits to all. I believe the most important in this side is that it's not only for an internal persona, but the persona is both internal and external.
Correct. And this, I guess, the challenge is always how do you make all these systems and different data sources talk to each other efficiently? But
that remains a technical challenge where I'm not. I've been through some challenges in some solutions I've been implemented in different shipping lines I've been working, but I'm not the expert on the technical. But I understand that it can be sometimes a bit cumbersome.
It is not easy, but it's feasible, and that's why we all keep hope.
Nothing is impossible.
Correct. So, well, thank you so much, and I think that basically covers most of what we wanted to talk about today. But I just wanted to keep a few more questions for the the conclusion about yourself. Back to you, because again, this podcast is really about who is making, what kind of individuals are making this industry, and to really look at, is there really hope at the end of all of this for shipping to not just follow, but to sometimes be at the forefront of innovation and take some risks. And I always really believe it comes to people having the bold and the right attitude. So if you were meeting yourself, your young self, at the beginning of your career, would you have any kind of advice or suggestion for him?
Yes, I would have a few. As I mentioned during our discussion today, I think many things have changed in the person I am not only in the shipping, I would say in the corporate world. But yes, there would be a few things I would say, but for sure, I would never change the fact that I went to an industry that I didn't know. So it would not be an advice, but I would encourage. I know it's still not yet that much trendy, fancy, sexy to go for shipping or logistic or supply chain, even though I believe since COVID, we know that is more and more important.
Very true.
So the younger Jeremy, I would say, maybe try to simplify. I mean, what I'm trying now to go for innovation, and I would have not been able to do before. So when I started my career, so still be ambitious and curious, because I've been ambitious and curious, and I would advise the others to do so as well, not to be afraid, but to be lean on your process since the beginning, to be lean and organized. Maybe this is what I miss at the beginning, and sometimes I lost myself in wanting everything to be perfect. We talk about innovation. I follow some digital during the COVID as I mean, I had some time and decided to pursue some online courses, and I attended online courses which was about innovation and startup, and they always talk about this concept that was very new to me, the MVP. And this is what I missed when I was young. I mean, maybe because fresh graduate, I wanted everything to be as per the book, perfect. And now we say that when you want to launch something, you need to go for the minimum viable product and iterate, reiterate, pivot, and so on.
Correct.
And so it would be an advice, but to be honest, I don't think, maybe it's good to start by having this foundation that are a bit rigid, and then along the way, at least if you're in the corporate world, if you start in the startup world, maybe totally different. You are a very more flexible mindset and brain, but yeah, do simpler, faster there. Not there to go to Cameroon for a financial coordinator VIE position, because it was quite a bold move. I didn't know what to expect, and I'm still here 12 years after. But yeah, there into the project, there to go. But is it easy when you start your career? I would not say so. Or maybe it depends on the people, but yeah.
Okay. And would you do anything differently? Any regrets?
No, not at all. As you mentioned, we are so many in the shipping, and yeah, we never thought that we will end up in shipping, and we are still here. So very few of us move out from shipping, or even though few of us move out from shipping, they go on the BCO side, I mean on the customer side, to manage the supply chain. So they never cut the link with the shipping somehow. So they're always there, and this is always the people you see in fair and exhibition, even though they are on the other side, maybe sometimes trying to squeeze us because they know they know how to do it. But yeah, it's still friendship, camaraderie a lot in shipping, and this is what makes. We all know each other. We go from one company to another, and we always have the same discussion. Oh, it's a small world, and
very true.
And but this is what makes shipping unique, and we just need this. This sparkle for innovation that everyone embrace, and I'm sure it will go for a way different shipping that we have known for the last, for us, 10 years, but others.
Father of 3 now.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On the recent newcomer in the family. What would you tell to the new generation? What would you tell your children? Would you encourage them to join this industry?
It's a good question. Honestly, I've been talking to so many people in shipping saying that, oh, I would never recommend my children or the new generation to do shipping. And this is what we discussed earlier on. And this is where innovations come at the right moment. Because the new generation, usually when these people tell you why, because they have been dedicated their life for shipping, maybe they miss so many events with their kids, their spouse, and so on. And this is what they miss, and they realize when they are retired. and it's too late, as we know. And maybe this is why they give the advice, not because they believe that shipping is not a good industry, but it's a very demanding. However, with all this innovation that we can bring, we might find some efficiency that will help the people to get a better work-life balance. Because at the end of the day, as we discussed and as we mentioned, 80 to 90% of the global trade going through shipping, which 55, I believe, if my number are correct, container shipping. So, I mean, the vast amount of industry you're talking with that are moving the world is impressive. And it's as many different industries, countries, because it's port of loading, port of discharge, as many problematic and issues to solve, solution to bring. So I believe it's very interesting, and it's just a matter how we can move out from this dependency on 24/7. Does it really need the human touch, the human being to bring the solution 24/7? I don't believe. And then we will have a match with new generation expectation and still this interest for an industry that is never boring, keep changing, and this is what we are still. This is why we are still today in this industry, I believe. So
a message of hope.
Exactly. Let's hope.
Wonderful.
Go for innovation.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you, Romain. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.